The following video is intended for educational purposes only. Hello everyone, my name is MD Castillo and today I'll be talking to you about MD5 encryption and its use in the digital forensics field. You may be wondering, what is MD5 encryption and how is it useful to me? Well, MD5 encryption is a hashing algorithm that's used to generate hash values to protect files and their passwords. It was designed by Ronald Griffith in 1991 as a means to surpass MD4. Unfortunately, MD5 suffered from security vulnerabilities, as I will go into later on. MD5 was designed to surpass MD4 in security aspect. Now, what I mean by this was that it was designed to be more secure with your passwords than MD4 was, through the increase in number of bits for the encryption. Just like MD4, unfortunately, MD5 did happen to run into collision problems with their hash values. I will go into this later on during the security section. Some of these vulnerabilities were linked to birthday attacks using equivalent hash values to modify a file and or password, but keeping the same hash values. A birthday attack, as used in a real life example, could be if you have a room filled with 50 people and you wondered what everyone's birthday was. Well, if you say whose birthday is on April 5th, you have a very low chance of running into anybody who has a specific birthday on a day that you stated. But it would be easier to ask the group of 50 what are their birthdays and see if any of them have the same birthday. You have a higher probability of this working versus choosing a specific day and seeing if anybody has that birthday. As such, the term birthday attack was created. MD5 uses 128-bit encryption compared to its predecessors to encrypt files and or passwords. It is used to verify that documents haven't been modified once they've been transferred from one location to another. In this example, we have a computed hash value for said file and or password. And we have the reported hash values after the file or password has been and or copied. As we can see here, the computed hash values and the reported hash values have not changed. What this means in court cases is that this file is a copy of the original file and has not been modified by any means to sway a case in any way. It can be used as evidence in a case. As such, it is important to us in digital forensics. Unfortunately, MD5 suffers from fast cracking. What do I mean by this? Fast cracking is when you can break an encryption process with the use of rainbow tables and birthday attacks, as previously stated earlier. Not only that, but MD5 can also be brute forced to reveal its content. As technology has progressed from the time of its inception in 1991, MD5 can be cracked using rainbow tables in roughly minutes to an hour, whereas birthday attacks and brute force can last anywhere from hours to days, and sometimes months. The earlier statement saying that it can be cracked in minutes and days is what's truly troublesome and ruin MD5's usability. In terms of securing passwords, it can still be used to verify documents because in that situation we're only dealing with document transfer. We're not dealing with any form of security that can be accessed through an outside force. Now, MD5 was used previously to verify certificates. It is no longer used for that because of its vulnerabilities. But back when it was used for certificates, it was working fairly well until people realized, hey, this MD5 is not as good as they said it was going to be. So, by certificates, I mean private and public certificates. Public certificates are given out to the users who wish to access the file and are only recognizable by the private certificate. So, if you were able to get your hands on the private certificate and decrypt it, you could make that file available to anyone, which is not what the user intended when he pinned a certificate to that file and or password. Rainbow tables. Remember what I just talked about, that you can break a MD5 hash password in a couple of minutes to hours? Yeah, rainbow tables. Rainbow tables are basically the hash equivalent of common use passwords. So if your password is password, I'm sorry for those that I spoiled your password to the outside world, you might want to get that changed, because if that value is encrypted to an MD5 value, you bet that the use of a rainbow table can hack that password in probably less than a second. It's probably going to be number one in that rainbow table. So those hash values are computed to ease the computer's time when trying to break a password. So if you have passwords such as password 12345 11111 000, those values have already been computed into MD5 hash values, and you compare them to the hash value that you get on the other end to see if they're equivalent. If those two values are equivalent, that means you know what that password or that file is. To prevent the use of rainbow tables flexibility, a lot of major companies or anyone who's highly interested in cybersecurity use SALT to cover up the tracks. Now, this might be a foreign term to most users or anyone watching this video, so I will go into detail on what salting is. So my diagram to the right, I have a password and SALT before the password. SALT can either be placed before or after the password, or both. As long as you know yourself what the SALT value is, you can compute the hashed result. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because rainbow tables work because they try to predict what the user's passwords or files are going to be. So, if we add a little bit of gibberish or a little bit of SALT to the beginning of our password, or to the end of our password, or to the beginning of our file, or to the end of our file, we, in essence, modify the hash value corresponding to that file and or password. This can be used to both restrict rainbow table use and make brute force attacks. You won't use a brute force attack. It'll take you years to break a password that's been heavily salted, even if it is MD5. So, SALT, make sure to salt your passwords and your files and make those stuff protected. And don't use MD5. No, seriously, don't use MD5 for your passwords. So, we compared hash values and we saw that hash values are the same. Now, that means those files haven't been modified. We computed hash values and determined that they were equivalent. This saying, those files have not been changed. We're hoping that whoever did the file transfer did not inevitably make a collision happen where the hash values were equivalent, because then you're really screwed. So, applications. Verifying documentation. To be surprised of how many flaws MD5 has, it is still used today to verify documentation. Because simple imaging of a hard drive to another hard drive or storage device to a storage device, you can use MD5 because you shouldn't be exposed to hackers during imaging process. You are not connected to any outside source while you're imaging. It's all local in-house. As such, MD5 verification is commonly used in this practice, and when presented with evidence in the court of law with a suspect's copied hard drive, you can state, using MD5 encryption, we were able to show that the files that were copied have not been changed in any way from the original. Now, it's used in electronic discovery because we know that files on a computer aren't typically encrypted unless they're of some great importance. So any criminal investigator would see, hey, some of these files or these documents are broken. I can't open them. And you think, oh no, wait, something happened to the header of the file or the extension of the file is not correct. But you realize that the file has been encrypted. So since it's been encrypted, we can start going down the list of possible encryptions. And if MD5 is one of them, we can use a decryption process to see what those file contents are, because, as again I said, MD5 can be really easily cracked. So protecting a suspect's computer using MD5 encryption is not the greatest thing, but using for file verification is very common practice. Here I have displayed the hashing algorithm that's used to calculate your MD5 hashed password and their file. It's just a simple use of logic gates and whatnot. You get the file and their password, and you break it up into 4 32-bit values. If the value is too small, as in your password or your file is smaller than 128 bits, passwords I can see, files I cannot, then what happens is ones and zeros are appended to the end of your said password until you reach the 128-bit limit, so then the MD5 encryption process can take place, which is where the collision process occurs. Files are relatively larger than 128 bits, so you won't have this problem. As you can see, the MD5 encryption process, each 32-bit block has a corresponding logic algorithm used for each block. Every block is dependent upon the previous block when it comes to giving a hashing value. MD5 was of great importance in 1991 with its inception and creation, but unfortunately, due to collisions, MD5's usability has gone down. It's still used for file verification today. I will demonstrate to you how MD5 functions. Okay, this website is used to demonstrate MD5 encryption. I will put in a term exactly what you would expect and encrypt it. This encryption value I can use to compare to once this file is copied, if the file was exactly what you expect, and see if it has changed or has remained the same. So when I go to decryption and I type in that hash value, I get exactly what you expect. As you can see, we have verified that both files have remained exactly the same. My name is Andrew Castillo, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.